Right. Welcome to our Beyond Visibility panel organized by Black Trans Media. I am Sasha Alexander, the founder and co-director of Black Trans Media, and I am thrilled to be joined by a brilliant panel of Black trans organizers who have done incredible work and global solidarity work for our communities. Just a few weeks ago, it was the Trans Day of Visibility, and while visibility is very important, simply just being seen is not the only thing that our communities need to get the changes that we need. And so I'm thrilled to be here with four brilliant Black trans leaders to have a conversation today about what global solidarity looks like, to have a conversation beyond visibility into what's really going on right now for folks navigating safety, housing, and just this political climate. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it off to our first panelist over here, Mr. Ruthra, to tell us more about who you are.
My name's Ruthra. I'm a Black trans man. I'm 40 years of age. I'm the founder of Positive People Initiative Uganda / Devins House of Hope. Devins House of Hope is a shelter for both transgender men and women living and affected by HIV/AIDS and those who are homeless. Apparently, I'm here in New York. I came to seek asylum because back home I was not safe as a trans man. So that's why I decided to come to seek asylum here in New York. Apparently, I'm staying in a shelter, but still things are not working out good. Yeah, but I have to be strong. I know one day we shall overcome. The reason is why I'm very strong because I started to advocate for myself at the age of 15 years. I was once a street kid because I grew up on the street, because I was disowned by my family because of my gender identity. So whenever I see my background, I know that one day we shall overcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Really appreciate that. And I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Twinkle over here to tell us more about who you are.
I hearing Ruthra's story. So first off, I'm Twinkle. I'm from Guyana, but hearing Ruthra's story, I just get a new thing. I think when we talk about global solidarity, why not global solidarity? When our experiences are the same, we kind of suffer from the similar system working against us and stuff like that. And so to share a similar experience like Ruthra, I was 15 plus when I got thrown out of my home from my family. And when they threw me out, I end up on the streets. And when I end up on the streets, I met my two beautiful sisters and our other set of sisters, Candacy and Bella here. These were girls, adults on the streets who took me in, mentored me, take care of me, show me a different life and show me there's still family and people out here. And so I earned my PhD in sex work and street survival in the streets of Georgetown. And from there on, my sisters right here continue to support me and build me and make me the person I am today. Who I am today, if one thing I want to say, Sasha, you like to use the hashtag as Black Trans Love is Revolutionary. And I want to say that I operate from a space of revolutionary and radical love for my people and my siblings who take care of me and mold me and make me the person that I am today. Yes.
It's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that and for being here and all the incredible activism you've done and just sharing a little bit of your story so far. And yeah, we're lucky to have other brilliant women who you've organized and navigated with, and excited to throw it over here to Isabella next. Tell us more about who you are.
Good afternoon, siblings. Good afternoon, members of the panel. Good afternoon to those viewers who will be listening after today. I'm Isabella de la Croix Finance. I'm transwoman from Guyana too. I'm a asylum seeker running from persecution, prosecution, and all the hate that the world wants to spew at people who just want to live their lives. As an activist who has been involved in human rights work for more than 25 years, I'm listening to Twinkle and listening to Ruthra, and our struggles are cross-cutting. Regardless of where we are, we face the issues of human rights violation, of discrimination, of anti-bills against human beings just who want to live their lives and live it respectfully. And I've been advocating for my community for so many years because we just need to be loved. We just need to share love and receive love. As someone who was thrown out from my parental home, growing up without a father who never had the opportunity to give me love because he was creating a life for himself and his family that he turned his back on me and turned his back on my mother. I struggled to survive. I've been through the highways and the byways, being sexually abused as a child and being exposed to all sorts of vulnerabilities as a homeless person. Friends, members of the LGBT community took me in and created a home for me and gave me love and appreciation where I never thought that I would have found it. When everybody was casting them out and saying that they're demonic and they're demons and they're nobody good in society, those persons brought me up. And today I'm proud to say that because of that, I am an empowered person, continue to work, continue to struggle, but also hoping that one day, as Ruthra said, that we will see the end of the tunnel where the light will be for all of us. This is a global community. The world should be a place for all of us and not for a few who have privileges or who tell themselves they can push us aside. We're all humans. And once in this lifetime, we'll all pass the end of our journey and we'll die and leave everything we're fighting for. Thank you so much. I'm thirsty now.
Ashe, please get yourself some water, sis, or have somebody there. Please get you some. I think Candacy dropped off for a moment. Hopefully she'll jump back on. And when she does, she can introduce herself. But we'll jump into our next question until she comes back. But I just want to thank you all for being vulnerable and sharing about your stories and navigating. And I think, like Twinkle said, there's a lot of connections between the things that we navigate as Black trans people, no matter where we are. But then there's also a lot of nuance to the specific ways that exists in our countries and different places that we come from. And so, each of you have your own unique experiences. There's a lot to maybe make visible that people don't know, whether what's happening here in the US or what's happening globally. What are some of the things that you feel are most important to make visible that people might not know about? And I'll start with Ruthra here. What would you want to make more visible?
I want to continue to advocate for rights of transgender persons, well-being, and fighting against discrimination, and working hard to see that every transgender person in the world gets peace. Because the more we raise our voices, the more we learn to talk or to stand on our feet. To raise our voices is the more we are going to advocate for our community. No one is going to advocate for our community. We are the ones to advocate for ourselves. So don't let anyone to stop you to say anything. Speak what you feel that you want as a trans person. The more you try to speak for yourself or for the trans community, the more other trans people are going to be more strong. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And before we continue to answer this question, I think we got you back, Candacy. If you can hear us and you want to jump in, would love to hear you tell us more about who you are.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm proud and honored to be a part of this panel this afternoon. I am Candacy McEwen, the founder of an organization called Guyana Trans United, and I'm listening to all my colleagues. I think my story is just a little bit different. I was driven by the needs of trans person and motivated because of the challenges that they face every day early in society. Even though that I am a transgender woman, my story would have been a little bit different in terms of me in my family setting. Many trans person was being put out or being neglected from family, but I didn't have to go through that. But because of knowing about my community and the suffering of my community, what have motivated me to be such a passionate person and working for myself and the community at large.
Thank you, Candacy. We're so glad to have you on the line. And the next question that we're talking through, and we'll throw it to Twinkle to share, is just what we want to make most visible. What do you want to make most visible that trans people are facing?
What we are facing right now, I want to make most visible is the relationship between the current situation and even the past one and white supremacy. We must have an understanding that this is white supremacy at play. This has been the modus operandi of chipping away the most vulnerable until you get to the ones that are big. When you remove we're like the defense system to the wider community. We fight for everybody, we protect everything, but it happens that we're the most under-resourced. We have less, but we do so much. And white supremacy has realized that when you take us down the guide rails, then it's easier to get the people who are Black and straight, who might be a woman, and other people who don't fall into the trans umbrella. And although you might see that today is trans, know that tomorrow it can be somebody else who might be you. And so that's what I want people to get rid of. You know, I'm contemplating this current moment. Recently, police killed 2 people in Guyana. They're from the straight community, and also from a homophobic community. And one of the things that bothers me a lot is like, you know, we face police violence. Candacy, Bella, all of us know about police violence. And it's a moment where I cannot just leave it blindly. And for some reason, I just returned to Dr. King's letter from Birmingham jail. And I was reading it and reading it and reading it. And he said in a part where he talked about injustice, anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. But he said we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied to a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects us all indirectly. And so that's kind of the message I want people to know, that while you might feel you're safe, white supremacy only saves white supremacy. Anything else that falls outside of there is not safe. And they will make you feel like you're safe until they take away all the guardrails and they get to you. And then you realize, no, this is about the power structure versus us. So that's one of the things that's some of the things I want, or the most important things I want people to get from this moment. That this is nothing more than a white supremacy operation looking to tear people down, as it has always done throughout their generations.
Right on. No, I think that's so important because, you know, when we think about all the anti-trans laws or rhetoric that happens, people don't, well, maybe that's white trans people, but people don't always associate it with white supremacy. And I think, you know, for us globally and as, you know, Black people and people of color all around the world, we know, you know, colonialism and the impacts of these things on our communities, on our countries. And yeah, and absolutely, this is a time when fascism and white supremacy are absolutely on the rise. So I'm really glad you said that and made that visible, because I feel like Trans Day visibility just happened, and I don't really feel like anybody talked too much about white supremacy. You know, people talked about how scary the climate is for us as trans people and what's happening, but I feel like people don't tap into that and how that's escalated, whether that's police violence or other things like you said. Throw the same question to you, Isabella. What would you want to make more visible for folks that the trans people are facing?
So for me, trans rights are human rights. Twinkle said it well when she spoke of what Martin Luther King, the great late Martin Luther King, said as it relates to injustice. We're seeing what's happening right now across the world and here in the US. For me, I'd want my community to continue to be empowered, continue to know the rights so that in the event that there are issues they're faced with, they can step back and challenge those issues or talk about them or speak to their representative. I think for too long we've been in this under the radar in terms of how people treat us and we're not pushing back. Also, through empowerment, I think our community needs to know that there's sisters and brothers who are out there willing to support. Sometimes we don't always echo or use our voices to amplify the issues that we face, whether we're seeing it, whether it's assumed, or whether it's present. And so sometimes we need to talk out. Violence anywhere is a threat to safety anywhere. And as I would have said in one of our prior meetings, I could have healed, or I probably have healed from some of my scars. But when I look at other siblings coming up and they're going through the same thing, I have to unheal to help them to go through that process of healing. And it creates in me a more vulnerable space because I'm always thinking, who would be next? You know, as I said in my last comment, we all are going to transition from this war. Why not live with love and peace? Trans people, members of the LGBT community, all we want is to be respected. We can do our thing. We can live our lives and be respected and look for love and appreciation and give back the same. But when you have laws and policies and all of these distractions just to stifle us, why aren't we allowed to live like everybody else? Politicians have politician friends. Business people have business friends. Prostitutes have prostitutes as friends. Trans people should have trans friends too. And everybody else, we were taught as children to love our neighbors. Isn't that principle governed by the world? Love ourselves as we love our neighbors and love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And the golden rule, do unto others as we'd want others to do unto us. Stop treating trans people like if we're filth and garbage. How I feel inside, you cannot understand. Allow me to let me be myself. How you feel inside, I cannot understand unless you tell me. And when a trans person like myself or Candacy or you or Ruthra or Twinkle says we feel this way, embrace us. Give us that love and that respect. Visibility cannot be recognized if acceptance is not. Thank you.
Visibility cannot be if acceptance is not. I appreciate that. Yeah, because then you just see us, and that doesn't change how we're actually treated, right? Candacy, want to throw the same question to you? Are there other things?
So I like to differ and also move away a little bit, but connect back also to the conversation. So many funders would have come and worked with us throughout, but they always the funder agenda.
You heard that, Sasha?
Say that last part.
It's always a funder agenda, and it's not driven by trans. And work doesn't much differ and move directly translate. And for me, it's about empowering trans person to socioeconomic, even though we might empower you to advocate. A big gap has missing why it's been doing this work. And it's how do we change some of those socioeconomic? Because I know for a fact Trump might be narrative might be homophobic and thing, but there's still person might be still working in his cabinet. There's a lot of leader might be homophobic, but if you're socioeconomic empowered, if you get a clear understanding that you fit in, you're able to pass. And sometimes when we talk about programs for trans, we just see about programs in terms of advocacy, turning healthcare, HIV work. We never think about a client-centered approach our trans, and I think we need to connect those that if our people have more spending power, if they have more education, and I was looking at the wars, and I'm saying to myself, and I had this conversation a few days with Twinkle, I said, Twinkle, look what is going on around the world. We might be looking for the next war war around guns and ammunition. But if you look strategically about China, it's about empowering the community, about money. Right now, where I'm living in Guyana right now, 6 to 7 Chinese stores and proper stores. Money is going into China's. And how do we change the narrative? It might not be about gun and war, it's about building our community to have resource around them that to make them sustainable and allow them to be able to impart whatever the livelihood is. Sometimes we route and we spread and we see advocacy is not going, but sometimes if we can use our community, I think sometimes we
Oh, I don't know if you got to finish your thought, Candacy. But yeah, everything you're saying is absolutely brilliant and absolutely right on. Yeah, at least in a place like New York City, I always say it's overserviced and underserved because there's a lot of nonprofits here that exist, but for some reason people don't get their needs met. And you know, they definitely need to do a better job of doing that. We talked a little bit about what it's like navigating this current moment. And so maybe we can think specifically about this other question around people started to bring up housing, I mean, and safety, but like how right now in this current moment, do you see, because right, we're moving beyond visibility to really think about action. What actions need to be taken related to helping trans people have safe housing, access to healthcare, safety, the ability to travel? Ruthra, kick us off. What would you want to see changed around those things?
I have a lot to talk about. I myself have been running a shelter, or that shelter is still running for 4 years, but there are some things that when I came this side, I thought that things are better than back home, but I've just realized all the challenges I'm facing, that things are not better here. There are some gaps which are missing in, because back home, if it is a space for trans people or a shelter for trans people, all the workers, we do not employ cisgender people in trans spaces, because cisgender people, they cannot understand the challenges as we trans people are facing, or the trauma we have in our lives. So a lot has been happening, and I'm not going to mention anything, but there are some things that are needed to be changed when it comes to trans spaces. Because if you employ cis people in trans spaces, by the end of that day, they are going to discriminate trans people. For them, in their minds, what they have, they need money or salary to go to feed their families. So that is a big gap here within the shelters. Cis people they bring a lot of trauma. We have a lot of trauma in our lives. But the way they approach us physically, the way they talk to us is not good. I know everyone is going to see I know everyone is getting what I'm saying, but a lot is happening. I'm not going to mention anyone, but let them at least employ trans people in trans spaces, because still many trans people are looking for jobs. Let them employ trans people instead of cis people. Cis people are bringing back that trauma we had like 20 years back. At the moment, sometimes I sit down. On Wednesday, there is something what happened. I regretted. I said, I wish I could get a chance to go back to my home country. But I cannot go. Let some leaders within that trans community listen to other leaders. I know that I'm a migrant. I came to seek asylum. But at the same time, you are my fellow trans person. If something happens, reach out to me, talk to me. I explain to you. Not cis people to talk on behalf of trans community. But this, it is not going to stop me. It is not going to stop me to talk or to stay silent. The people around me, I'm a silent guy. You cannot get any word out of me. But if I see something, I'm a man who raised my voice because I was meant to say or to raise my voice as a trans person. That day when my parents disowned me, my mom, I've never seen her. Now I'm 40 years, like 38 years. I have no any relative. The relatives I have are my fellow trans people. So if I tell you that I don't want to associate with cis people, try to understand me. Because my mom gave birth to me as his kid. He decided to disown me. I don't have love within cis people. The years, all the support I've been getting support from trans community. So why is it that I could associate with cis people, yet my mom disowned me? If she thought that I was important to her, she would have raised me as a kid. But she decided to disown me. So that's why I try to tell some organizations, try to employ trans people in trans spaces. They have to try to employ trans people because they know the challenges we are facing. We are in the same circle. A lot has happened, but I thank God I'm still alive. No one is going to silence me. I am a person who always reads a Bible. There is a book in a Bible about Job. I think everyone knows Job. So Job faced many challenges in his life. So at the moment, I'm Job. I know that the situation I'm in, one day, my tears are going to be my testimony within the trans community. That's why I'm very strong. Thank you.
You are very strong, brother. Thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate you being willing to.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really a life or death issue out there. People being in our spaces or saying that they're going to support us and not. And, you know, yeah, we're just so vulnerable. A community that is very vulnerable and in a lot of vulnerable situations with people mistreating us or misusing their power. And so it's really important. And you are an amazing advocate.
Yes.
But you also deserve to get the support and everything that you need. So
yes, because I need support. My siblings back home at the shelter need support. If I'm stressed out or if I'm not fine, I cannot manage to sit down to start looking for support that I can send back home to my siblings. For them, what is in their minds, they know that I came here to advocate for them. And they know that I'm in a good situation. I cannot tell them the challenges I'm facing right now. Because if I tell them that I'm facing a lot of challenges in my life, what will be the next? They are going to start stressing themselves. That's why I don't tell them what is happening. Whenever they tell me, because they call me Papa, we need this, I try my level best to see that at least the little support I get from my brothers, sisters, I share. I send it back home. I've spent here 7 months, but I've never had any single coin in my pocket. They give me my personal money. I decided to send it back home. Because here I know I'll go to churches, I'll get free food from there. Back home, they cannot go to churches. So that's why any support I get, my personal support, I just send it back home. Because I love my community, I love my siblings, my community is my family. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, I feel like our community only exists because we have people that look out for us and we look out for each other. Like y'all said, that's how you all met, was you looking out for each other, you know? And I know there's a lot of brothers and siblings and sisters you've met through surviving and looking out and being that papa,
Yes.
you know, helping make sure people have what they need. I would love to throw this to Twinkle and then to Isabella and Candacy too. So this just question of, you know, we think specifically about what needs to change around housing or healthcare or safety or travel. What are some of the things that you feel like are most important to highlight?
Before I get into that, I just want to say a few words to my brother Ruthra. As an asylum seeker myself in this country, there was a point of time when I felt very much lost, very much like I don't belong here, but I wanted to tell yourself that this world is ours. Anywhere you go for safety in this world, you're going to your place. If we were really born equal and free, then we shouldn't have borders. We shouldn't have these structural impediments to people's safety and people's life. So I know it might be hard to not feel like you belong, but walk with this, that this world is ours. And we born equal and free, and we should be able to travel this world length and breadth, back and forth, any way we want, as freely as we can. And none of us own here. So that's one thing. I'm kind of aware of some of the things you're going through, and I know I made a promise to you that I'll help you out with some of those stuff. I'm still available to help you out with those stuff. I've just been a little busy getting other things done with Candacy and my other siblings at home. But I'm here, and if you want next week, let's take the road walking and see what else we can get done on that thing. So, but know that you got a sister here who will be by your side, and don't ever feel like you come here and because you're an asylum seeker here, you have to accept the way people treat you, or you have to take what people do. Always stand up for yourself, always put yourself first, and always assert yourself as I'm valuable, I belong. And the other thing in terms of what do we need now, I think when I think about what's currently happening in the United States, I think about historical situations, I think about conservative behavior and the ruthlessness of these systems. I've come to a conclusion that, you know, for people like us in the Caribbean, probably in Africa and different parts, we've always, the story or the narrative that was sold to us is that these are spaces of freedom and liberation and safety and all things. But eventually, look, if something like this can happen, then what is all that? And thinking about that, I come to the conclusion that we have to envision safety, security, and solidarity beyond the United States and Europe. We have to find other spaces and look. And in terms of global solidarity, one of the things that we really need now as a community, we have to look, we have to map out the number of places we know, understand the context, and understand what can we do to work in those contexts that will bring safety to our people. Because it's very unfortunate if we have to move people from, let's say, Uganda to the United States in search of safety, or on this belief that you have safety, and then you end up with this situation that we're currently facing, people trying to constructively raise us and diminish us and do away with us from public life. So what we really need is to really get a grasp on what does the context in Jamaica look like legally? What are some things available there? I don't want to talk too much because I know this is going to be live and I don't want the oppressors to follow my path, to follow my strategy, but we can discuss more about this internally. There's a concept that's called legal consciousness in the studies, and within the legal consciousness is an idea that no matter how difficult the situation is where you are, you work within those situations to bring safety. You as difficult as it may be, you study those situations and think about, okay, all right, it might be illegal to walk. One of the way I think about this is when I was doing the solidarity for Uganda and stuff like that, they have restrict every possible way for LGBTQ Ugandans to protest or to fight or to express themselves against the current injustices. And in the terms of legal consciousness, like for example, they ban people from wearing like quote unquote male from wearing female, female from wearing male clothes and things like that. And in the context of legal consciousness, I said, okay, all right, you ban people entirely, all right. But guess what? We no longer male or female, we're priest and priestess. So if I can't wear a dress, I'll wear a gown and I will come out and protest as a Christian woman or a Christian man, and I'll preach the gospel. Are you going to ban religion now? The very thing that you like to weaponize against us? Are you going to write yourself off? So those are some of the ideas, the ways that you look into the difficult situation and said, this is how I will face it. So I think this is what we need, thinking about where we have safer spaces, thinking about the context, and how do we operate in those contexts that we maintain the safety and security of our people in a way that we don't got to run and come to quote unquote I don't want. We don't have to run and come to the UK, the Europe, and the United States in search of safety, and then you end up with cruelty, or you reach cruelty. So yes, that's my contribution.
Thank you so much, sis. I really appreciate you taking time to like really be thoughtful about both what our brother is going through and just thinking globally, you know, about what is going on and what is happening. Isabella, I'd throw that same question out to you around any specific ways you see housing, healthcare, safety, travel impacted, or things you want to see tangibly change for us as trans people.
I want to echo what Twinkle said and give Ruthra support wherever I can. When you were talking, I was literally almost in tears because of the cross-sectionality of these issues. You know, I'm coming from Guyana, being in the US, you coming from Uganda, listening to what other Ugandans said years ago when I was in India at the one of the conferences they had. There was a contingent of African colleagues, and they were experiencing worse than what's happening in some of the countries that you know we see as safe. But for me personally, and what I'd like for our community is to echo what Candacy said, the PCA, the people-centered approach. We need to do more research, resource mobilization. And Sasha, you talked about something that you hope that can happen here in New York, where you can create a space where we can have our own land and create housing and opportunities for ourselves and plant our own food and create our own homes there, like a semi-eco ecosystem, an eco environment where we can do all of those things. And currently, um, and they see in the Guyana through Guyana Trans United, myself and Twinkle and everybody who's attached there, we're looking to see how we can create that environment, being able to acquire the land and do all of the necessaries so we can produce what we eat for us, by us. I think that approach helps me as an individual, as a trans person, as a human, to feel that when I'm within, I am safe. We're together, we stand together. If there's an issue, we stand up for each other. Our security and safety can never be guaranteed by a system if the system has laws and policies to attack us. And oftentimes, working with Candacy as the executive director for Guyana Trans United, I often hear her talk about the people centered approach through changing hearts and minds. Laws and policies can change, but people may still continue to see us as a threat because we are living our true, authentic selves. And so when we are together in our own spaces and we can talk to each other as siblings and love each other and take care of each other, we've had colleagues who we would have nurtured who were HIV positive and they came back to life. They were on death's bed as an organization whilst working in Guyana. Um, we nurtured folks back to life. And so we have all of those resources within community. Give us the resources and let us do what we have to do for ourselves. If we are burdened to systems, then allow us the opportunity with the resources and give us a place where we can create our own homes and create our own safety and create our own food and teach our people and create that environment. The Aboriginals do it. The Tukshaus in Guyana do it. The Wakapushis or whatever the names are, the Amerindians, those people have their own lives. We as a people can take care of ourselves. And I think that, you know, looking at all that is happening, it's an erasure of who we are. And we cannot allow that to happen. So getting resources, doing things like fundraising activities and doing things like posting stuff as it relates to seeking funding, GoFundMe, and all of these things to support people in Uganda, to support folks in Haiti, to support folks in Guyana, and support folks in all the different diaspora. The trans community need that kind of support because when you're living in Europe, laws and policies will change. We're living in the US, the government change, 4 years in, 4 years out, or Congress changes, and some don't like what's happening with us, they change the laws. When you look at Roe versus Wade, if they can violate Roe versus Wade for women who we all came from, what happens to us? And so for me, looking at it through resource mobilization, getting our own money, spending it where we see it fit to support our community, housing our community, we've been doing that. Candacy has been doing it. I've done it for several of my colleagues in Guyana when I had a space I was renting. The office, the Guyana Trans United office, came out of my apartment. It was rat infested. It was roach infested. I lived there. So the office was bred from there. Our first contribution, our first in-kind donation came to my residence. And Candacy has been sheltering the community, members of the community. I was kept person, Twinkle was kept person at our home, and we care for our people because we know how we feel. So for me, that's how I see it. And I think that, it's a good approach to start putting that perspective into place because come the next 10, 15 years from now, if governments continue to treat us this way, what are we going to do? We have to do something to put our people as a priority because they're not going to put us there. Thanks much.
No, thank you so much. I mean, it's important about us talking about what's happening right now and making sure we have support right now, but also thinking about the future because we're always going to need these things. So if we're not thinking about where our food is going to come from or where we're going to live and having spaces that we have autonomy so cis people can't do whatever they want when they want to do it, I mean, as trans people doesn't mean we're always going to treat each other perfect, but hopefully, right, some of these issues, right, we're able to better support each other in addressing them. And so, Candace, I also want to throw that over to you. This question about, what kind of tangible changes you might want to see to housing or healthcare or for safety or for travel. And I also know Isabella mentioned the land, obviously, that y'all have there, which is really powerful. If you want to tell us about that.
Sorry for my background would be a bit noisy, but I wanted to send. I listen to Twinkle, I hear all my colleagues here. And one of the most powerful thing I want to remind ourselves that the anti-gender movement is well in place and it's has always been there. I remember a few years, there were incidents in Guyana where there were some church was coming into Guyana and speaking, I think it was Operations Respiration, I think that what they call itself, but they were going to Caribbean island and it was to or to spread hatred against LGBT people broadly. And myself and Twinkle and other person had to mobilize to go out and stand up and resist those persons. I think when I speak sometimes about lack of resource, about money into our community, many times our community are crippled because we don't have financial resource to start pushing back some of these narrative. I remember myself going into the church, there's this permanent minister that also is a minister of government, but he also a religious minister that he runs a church, and he's the Bishop Edgel. And we had to literally went in when some of our colleagues died, and he said this narrative to put all LGBT people at the time on an island by themselves. He was a prison at the time when two of our colleagues was brutally murdered. And I remember myself had to went to his church and sit in. So sometimes the movement is not just by talking, but having resource because sometimes you cripple when you're not able to move. I remember another time the Adventist church was having a conversation, and assumingly the Adventist church in Guyana is not a vocal on LGBT rights, but they were well aligned with the movement. And the amount of money going to anti-gender movements to spread it, sometimes we don't have enough in our community to rebut it. So for me, it's always helping to build up that resource, whether it's through fundraising, as my colleague said, whether it's through the land that GTU is now embarking on, whether it's how we see socioeconomic power in different countries, whether I strongly believe, like for instance, GTU was one of the first trans-led organization in the English-speaking Caribbean, had registered and able to have a bank account. We were able to rent office space, the first to actually had an office space throughout a lot of the English-speaking Caribbean. But those are proud moments for me and my colleagues. And we try, even though sometimes funders go as we in this conversation, out government changes, priority changes. But for me, it's always the focus to have a physical space and to have a land and to able to create spaces on the land. It's a big plus. We might not look at it as that big, but if you look us as a trans person and the narrative that you have to rebut every day, and to actually own the space that you can do things to yourself and be comfortable in the plot of land. It's like I remember years ago to one of our president at the time, because we not a little bit, we divided by race and ethnicity also. And I remember this present government but one of the leader before was going into the community and said, if you own the land, then you own the space. And for me, that was a big takeaway for me. Always have a physical space within your country. It might be difficult for different country, but where those spaces could be exist, let us try to pool our resource. Our resource could be idea, helping personnel to start up, helping people to document it, helping people where to go to get resource to start owning spaces. For me, it's very important.
Right on. No, absolutely. Thank you for speaking about that, Candacy. And want to make sure one of the next questions we're going to have is about how we can support everyone and their work. And definitely, before we do that, Twinkle's got a hand up, so please jump in there.
I would just like you to permit me to tag this story because what Candacy just shared was a revolutionary piece, and is a piece that I will always walk with me. And I want trans people, Black trans people, global trans people to hear these stories and think and be empowered in your revolutionary spirit and love and radical activism. So in terms of the church people, the church people head by a retired lesbian, many people who claim to have transcend beyond their sexuality back to male or female. And it was head by a retired lesbian. And she bring from Jamaica, and she bring a whole entire crew in Guyana. I didn't know anything about this whole crusade because like the way information was going on. But anyway, the night I went to the streets to begin my work duties at around 8 o'clock the night, and Candacy pulled up in a car with a garment, it was a cultural wear, African outfit, a big, you would never know. And she put it on and said, where are we going? And she said, we got something to go to. We got something to go to. These church people attacking us and these things. And so Candacy picked me up, then she picked up another sister, and then we picked up the four of us. And they were in the middle of preaching and prophesying about Jesus and homosexuality and all these things. And we just descended into the crowd and the congregation at every different location, one to the stage, one to the midst of the crowd, one to the... And bet you believe it, that was the last night the crusade happened. We took over the entire preaching, and we assert that we have a right to be ourselves. We have a right, and it's ungodly to be here preaching about God and trying to marginalize and think people. And we might not have been as structured as I'm speaking now, but our voices were heard. And if I don't lie, that was the last night the crusade occurred. They didn't have another crusade like that.
Twinkle. Yeah. But so if you remember, we went ally there because the Roman Catholic, the Brigham Cathedral bishop was there, and he invited us, and he started to talk about what people perceive as sin is not sin and all these things, and welcome us and always been an advocate. He was even presented an award from GTU. And even though some other organization hijacked the movement, let us not get to the part, but we still will ally even with our activist work at the time.
Yes. So yeah, we built allies in that moment, but one of the greatest thing I know, there was a first test of me seeing the strength of my community and what community and collaborate and coming together to attack a system that go against you looks like, and we were successful, and that builds upon who I am today. But what's the question we were supposed to address?
No, the next question we were going to address was, well, the next question was about how we can support you in your work. And so maybe I'll throw that to Ruthra first, because you did mention Devins House of Hope. So if people are not aware of the shelter that exists in Uganda, that absolutely still they need to be raising resources for and supporting. Obviously, we can drop that when we, in the video link, we can drop a link to Devins House of Hope so people can find out there. But is there any other way that they could support you or the shelter?
At the moment, when I left my home country, I was the only one looking for resources because let me say, I'm the only one who used to look for resources. The reason is why that I'm the only one who used to look for resources. Not everyone, my shelter members, are enough educated. So I used to apply for grants or reaching out to different organizations like Black Trans Media, Road Foundation, BTTF, Black Trans Travel Funds. So they used to give us supports, and at the moment they are giving us support. So that is how I used to mobilize resources that can support the shelter. And I thank God that they are still supporting. So everyone who is listening to me, if I don't reach out to you requesting for support, if Black Trans Media reaches out to you requesting support, understand that also people back home in Uganda, they get support from Black Trans Media or Black Trans Travel Funds. So still, we need support. And try to support Black Trans Media. That is what I can say. Because not everyone knows me. Or not everyone that I can reach out to you are going to trust me to give you support. But if the good thing, Black Trans Media, they trust me. They know the great work I'm doing. And when you look at our missions, we are transparent when it comes to funds. If people were not trusting me, our shelter would have not been exist for 4 years. So we need support. Our shelter at the moment, the big number of people who are staying there are living with HIV. Remember, this political wave we are in at the moment, they are no longer receiving HIV medication. I'm so stressed up about that because I don't know what is going to be the next. People are going to lose their lives. Because we are in a political wave where, let me say, the government does not care about people's lives. So we have to talk about that. People are going to lose their lives. People are no longer accessing HIV medication. And I myself, I have no resources to buy medication for my siblings back home. The only way I do is begging. I reach out to Brother Sasha. You know Brother Sasha? This and this is happening back home. So I'm so happy that Brother Sasha has done a great work. Sometimes I see many other fellow trans people coming to him. We disturb him a lot because every now and then we have challenges in our lives. We disturb him a lot. And he needs more resources because he helps a lot of people here.
Appreciate you. We need to get you those resources because you are helping a lot of people at home and even here, even in you seeking asylum here, which is I see with so many trans people. So we are still the ones helping each other, you know, navigate that. And
he needs a lot of resources, and Brother Sasha, help us, because I see all homeless trans people reach out to you.
yeah,
When we are telling you our problems and the challenges we face in shelters,
yeah,
try to share our stories so that our stories be heard by other people. Try to do that. So, because I'm not the only one complaining. I've seen many my fellow trans people who are homeless, who are staying in shelters, raising complaints. How shelters are being, shelter workers, OCS workers, treat us. So try to raise our voices because you are a person you reach out to.
absolutely. Absolutely. No, I don't take that lightly. I know how important it is to have support, and there's not a lot of support for trans people in shelter who are navigating, whether here or anywhere. And so it's really important if people are reaching out that they get the support they need. Yeah.
If I was the only one complaining, I think you would have said, why is it that you complain? But
no,
even the citizens of this country,
sure, yeah. Oh,
they
gosh.
are complaining about how trans people are being treated in shelters. So try to raise our voices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what we're here to do, organize. I mean, sometimes it's hard because we're meeting so many immediate needs for the community. And then we also need to be loud and let everybody else know about it so we can get the resources we need. But like you said, it's life or death. That the work that we do, that you do to keep people safe, you know, that we're all doing. And there should be so much more resources for this. And so, yeah, my hope is that people listening and watching this will be able to not only learn from all the experiences you shared, but also think about how they might have resources or connections to resources that they could support and that would make a huge difference, you know, in Uganda or in Guyana or for Black trans people here. So thank you for saying that. I know that it's serious and that the support that people need is critical, and that the people who are there to provide that support to the community have to take that really serious because of how important the support is, the lack of support is. So thank you, brother.
Just try to your best as much as you can. Raise our voices as we trans people who are staying in shelters. We face a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate you saying that, because I think how can we support you in your work is also addressing the conditions that, you know, you're navigating, that people are navigating all across the world, but certainly here in New York City and other places. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, because what happened, I've never seen a casework punching a shelter member. I've been operating a shelter, but I've never raised my hand,
Absolutely.
beating my sibling. I respect them. that there are some case workers that use their force because they know that you are homeless. They try to fight you, box you. So try to raise our voices.
And I think when we do raise them, listen to us and share it and support the people that are raising their voices, because there certainly are people that are. And when they're brave and they do it, people need to listen and need to support people who are doing that. So I'm glad you said that. There's so much more support people in shelter need that people are not getting. So for sure, we're going to be following up about stuff you've talked about. And if other folks are experiencing stuff, please reach out who are watching this. I definitely want to throw this question over to Twinkle and Isabella and Candacy too, around how we can support you and how we can support your work.
I want to emphasize that as much as we need support too, it's important to support Black trans media, Sasha, organizations like Road, Black Trans Travel Fund, Black Trans Blessings, because there's a peculiar something, or there's a special something about the way in which these groups operate. And it's so special that with the current crisis, my analysis has proven that your strategy, the strategy that you've employed, Sasha, with Black Trans Media, Devin, and Black Trans Blessing is, I don't want to say it's the best, but I know it's proven to be the best working strategy for us. And why I say that is because I can remember when we first met, it was at GMHC at time. And I said, brother, would you register Black Trans Media so that you can access grants through the city and these type of things? And you said to me, was like, we don't operate in these systems, something to this regard, like we don't operate in these systems were not designed to help our people and help us in the best way. And fast forward a couple of years now down the road today, all those grants are being pulled, all those resources, all those services are being pulled and organizations can't hire people because they don't know the future of the grant or what it looks like. But here we are, Black Trans Media, Devin, Black Trans Travel Fund, standing strong, standing less affected in the way of how the fundings are moving and the policy. Your strategy still stands here and still the one that stands out. So support my brothers and sisters in these groups and in these grassroots level and community to community organizing, because when you support them, it comes directly to us. Sasha, brother Devin, sister Nala, sister Brianna, these are people that I could reach out to at any point in time. I need help. They're always there. They're always saying for me. So even if you're not supporting us and you give it to them, it trickles down to us. Not the type of trickle down economics that the corporate welfare people engage in. There's another point too I want to make. When it comes to pride, we had also talked about pride, and you said to me too, I don't participate in corporate pride. And here we are down the road to see why those states. At the time, I felt like, why? I think this is a celebration. This is happiness. This is freedom. But now it's proven why we should not participate in corporate pride, because corporate pride is only here for when it's convenient for them, when they could make their money and make their advertisement on the back of our struggles, on the back of who we are. And pride was never about I mean, I support if you want to go to pride and that, but pride was never about what we see corporate pride making. Pride is a protest. It's a revolution. It is a moment to speak out and attack the things that attack us. And corporate pride has moved us away from that commitment to what pride is. So that's that I'll say. I probably forget something. But in terms of now supporting me, or supporting the work that I do, I am currently the strategic advisor for Guyana Trans United. I help with strategy and how we sustain our future and stuff like that. Some of the things that we have been working on, or we are currently working on at Guyana Trans United, from since 2014 to now, we had this agriculture as a means of economic empowerment. Thank God with the work we put in, Bella with the writing and applications and stuff like that. GTU now has a farmland where we will be approaching farming We're going to be looking at ways to make income and I don't like to talk about money because
All good, sis. Take your call. No worries.
yeah, sorry about that. No, yeah, we've got the land. We're gonna be moving into developing this land and to creating employment for our community, even creating a safer space so that when cruelty like what we're seeing here right now arise and our siblings need to, let's say, take a 3-month hiatus, we must have a garden and a nice eco space, somewhere that's friendly, that they could relax and they could move on. We could be in a community, we farming together, growing together, eating together, loving together, while they do whatever the fuck they want to do here with their white supremacy and their bullshit, because we've already crafted a place for us. So that's the economic side of it. I have been personally working on a housing part of it. My housing stuff is in process. We're waiting to get that land approved. Once that land approved, I'm personally committed to building a safe space for my sisters and brothers who are in sex work and my Guyanese trans sibling. So we'll be building that safe space. Maybe within the next 6 months, I'll be putting out something to say, well, the plan or whatever. Right now, we're in the process of getting the land approved, and we should get that within 3 months, we're hoping. Once that come out, I'll be putting out a plan for the safe space and looking to raise funds for that. And also contributing my own funds because this is my personal commitment. The other thing that in my personal work with the girls on the ground back home is that a lot of times they've been terrible violations to the dignity and humanity of my siblings by the hands of the police. And many times I feel very cornered because the police always manipulate these girls into taking things like plea deals. They might be in their rights, and then the police convince them to accept that they're wrong, and then build their ranks upon those things. They what did I say? They feed on the sisters for crime so that they could support their promotion to get higher up in the police force. And one of the things that's missing in these situations is an attorney. So if you're attorneys, if you're a liar, I implore you to start looking into being, we need your support in the Caribbean for criminal matters, for police brutality and the way the police treat our community. Please start looking into ways that we can get you admitted to Caribbean bars in Guyana. You can get admitted to the bar in Jamaica, different places. So when these situations of injustices at the hands of police arise, we could have a legal person who can assist our community in those situations. Because let me share a story that I was recently dealing with. I personally don't believe that the police is a safe space or will ever become a safe space for my community and my people. But this is what we exist within. A sister went to make a report and the police deny her the right to make that report of somebody abusing her. And because she stood up for herself, she was faced with cybercrime, harassing police officers, and a whole barrage of charges. And although probably her actions can be considered as wrong or whatever, she was forced to just blindside the injustice that she faced at the hands of police and accept a guilty plea that, oh, I was guilty of harassing the police. I was guilty of cybercrime, bullying. I was guilty of these things. And, you know, I just feel like this is so wrong because while she paid the price for what she considered to be guilty of, the police didn't pay the price for refusing her to take that report, and you force her to behave in the manner she's behaving. So that's from the context of legal support. There are also things like girls would need name change and these type of things. If we have attorney who can look through these stuff, which we do have some support, but we need more support. We need more people to assist with those type of things. What is the other thing? I also want us to start speaking more and more about the injustices that our people are facing outside of the US and all over, because when you think about what happened in Uganda, Uganda's situation that occurred last year and the year before was because of pressure from white Christian conservatives in America. And so once we could see that connection, and if we could organize around it, we could probably help to stop it, because this is what they do. They take all the bigotry that they're sowing here and they carry it to our governments who are willing to accept that bigotry, and then they criminalize and treat us in the most inhumane ways. And so we cannot stay silent. Don't ever feel that what's happening in Uganda does not concern me because it's far away from Uganda. Because like I come back to my earlier point, white supremacy don't see an end until you put it to an end, until we stand up and said, you will not cross the line you're not supposed to cross with us. And the way we do that is when we see injustice anywhere, we speak out, we post about it, we talk about it, we research it, we see what are the links to these type of injustice, and we call them out. So global solidarity is what I want. You may not have money, you may not have your resources, but if you have a voice and you can lend a post, a tweet, or something to raise awareness and also to send strength and solidarity to our people, that's also important. So to wrap up, support my brother's organization, support organizations that are operating from the grassroots level outside of the corporate industry, and keep connected and continue to post and tell the stories of our people so we can keep that love, strength, and solidarity among ourselves.
No, thank you, my love. That's the whole point of this conversation, is to talk about global solidarity and how important that is. And so thank you for speaking on that, for all of you for speaking on that. I want to offer the same question to Isabella and Candacy, just about how we can support your work. I think Twinkle spoke about it really beautifully, but if there's anything she missed from supporting specifically this work in Guyana, or any other way that we can just support you, Isabella or Candacy.
Sasha, you've been a mountain of strength and support to me as an individual. And thank you for supporting Ruthra and my colleagues and siblings in Uganda and wherever you might send support. I think having funding, having more funding and having funding, unrestricted funding to support colleagues is really an important work for us and for you as the head of an organization who continues to support persons, regardless of how they come to you, or try to, as much as possible, to get into what's happening with them. That's not important for you. You're always there to support. And I'm appealing to those listening ears who have the money, who's willing to give, to continue to support Black trans organization that is doing the work, grassroots organizations such as the Black Trans Media, Black Travel Fund, and Black Trans Blessings, and all the other Black trans organizations. But as a Guyanese, I work so hard and diligent with my colleagues to get 10 acres of land. It's one of our most valuable sustainability plan. After USAID left the region, which was one of our main largest funder, our office dwindled. We had funding from COC Netherlands, which was for close to 5 years. And when that funding ended in 2020, we didn't know what else to do. And hearing all of the conversations about closing the office and our stuff would have been left here, there, and everywhere, we worked diligently with the executive director, Candacy McCune, to secure funding, many times from our own pockets, from her pocket. Many times she got to put up her money to be the money that we'll use as a security money. I know in our last big office, we had $120,000 put up there as security, which was her money. A lot of times we put an investment into our community that can never be matched with no funding. Can never be matched with no funding. And I reiterate the point to say that there's so many times we were the first to start an initiative and we were the last to close off that initiative when it became a reality. And so today I'm appealing to those listening ears, and even in your pool of support, Sasha, and those who you know here that can offer international support. GTU can create we do have a sustainability plan and marketing plan. We can create a proposal that we can probably use to send across different spaces and places. Same can happen with the girls and the boys in Uganda and different places that we support. Um, for me, that's my work. I am attached to several spaces and places and communities and organizations, and I'm going to lobby for all of them if the opportunity exists. I'm thinking of getting to corporate medias like Medea and all of these people. You know, the foundations, they give a lot of money. It's not, it's not a sin or it's not bad for us to send a proposal to, Tyler Perry or one of those big companies that we know can fund. It's not going to waste our time if we send it and we get an approval, or it's not going to waste our time if we send it and we don't. But if we don't try, we don't know if we're going to be able to get those kinds of support. 10 acres of land is a large plot of land, and we can do so much. We can create 50 houses that trans people can live in. We can create a small community center. We can create a playing field. We can create pens to rear animals because it's not in the larger community, or it's in a rural environment. And so because it's there, we can rear animals and use the opportunity to sell those animals, feed ourselves from them, use their byproducts to create our plants, and we can do agro processing. There's so much we can do to create the independence that we so need, given what's happening in the markets, given what's happening in countries, and given what's happening globally. We have to continue to look to see how best we can sustain ourselves. And I'm imploring to those listening hearts and minds who are giving and willing to give, support our community, support the work that we're doing, because your voice is going to make a big impact. You know, when we look at what um, Rosa Parks did and Marcus Garvey and Mahatma Gandhi and all of those visionaries that came before us, they left an indelible foundation and presence that we can continue to fight and support the people. Sometimes the trees that are planted that we do enjoy the fruits from, or the labors that the people who labored before us, they're not here to enjoy that moment. And so we are here to continue to support what they have started. And I'm just saying that, give with a given heart, because at the end of the day, we all are one race, we're a human race, and we all at some point in time will leave this earth with nothing. So spread love, share love, give, and be given to those people who need, because we all do need. I may need money, but a colleague may need love. Somebody else may need a house, but somebody else may need some advice or some support. And so we're a human chain, and let's interlink and continue to support each other. Thank you.
No, that was beautiful. Thank you, my sister. I appreciate you. And yeah, I appreciate everybody saying what they're saying about supporting this organization. I want to see Black trans media get the support, but I also know how important it is to get these resources to other communities outside of the US, and how difficult they're seeming to make that. So I know us banding together and having solidarity is really important to see this land, this 10 acres, have those homes and that community center and that food, and that the future for trans people, they'll be like, we didn't always have this. We didn't always have Devins House of Hope. There was a time that there wasn't a thing like that. There was a time.
Sasha, that can be a space when you're visiting with a delegation. You can come and spend time and be with family and eat
I
fresh
know,
fruit.
I know. I mean,
Let's
now,
envision a space like that.
yes, and this conversation is leading to us building those relationships all over the world with each other and figuring that out. And some people like Candacy and y'all have already figured out the land. Ruthra's talked about this, what it would mean for Devins House of Hope to own their own house and not have to deal with the discrimination from a landlord, or constantly be pushed out, have a place that's ours, that's just ours as long as we can hold on to it, and I think we just lost Candacy, though I think she would have probably just co-signed all the things Twinkle and Isabella shared, and Ruthra. If she joins us, definitely want to hear from her. But I definitely want to start to wrap up our panel, and thank you all for your time and your brilliance, and really, really, really just encourage anybody who's listening to reach out if you need support connecting to these organizations or to these leaders. but to please like be pouring in support and resources and thinking about trans people from a place of global solidarity. Before we close out, is there any last thing on your mind you want to share, on your heart you want to say to people about this, about why global solidarity is important, or anything else on your heart?
One thing I should request Black Trans Media is at least open up a TikTok account. Open up a TikTok account, okay, because these days people are more active on TikTok. The more we do advocacy for our community, the more everything will be fine.
Okay, I'm gonna get brother to help me get a TikTok, and the first video you'll see is him being like, Black Trans Media needs a TikTok.
Yes, because we need to advocate for ourselves.
Right on.
And I know if you Black Trans Media open up a TikTok account, many trans people worldwide can join our conversations.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I love that. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Any other burning thoughts or thoughts before we close out the panel, either Twinkle or Isabella?
I want to leave here just of how I come in on the idea of radical love, radical resistance. Don't ever give up, no matter how difficult it is. There are brothers and sisters out here, even if you don't ever feel alone. Know that there are people out here fighting, and me, for one, I'm prepared for this fight. I don't care, even if you throw me in jail. The only thing probably you can do is to really remove me from this. But I am going to stay in this fight, no matter how difficult, no matter what come my way. I will until this system say, well, I will allow my little system allow my people to live freely and securely and with a good future. I will continue this fight no matter what. I'm not afraid of the system. I'm not afraid of the fight ahead. And listen, brothers and sisters, as long as we stay together, as long as we raise our voice in the global space from everywhere and every place, we will overcome this. Our voice, our solidarity, our support for each other is our greatest strength. The oppressor's pen, the laws, no matter what they try to do, is not the strength. Our strength is what we build and how much we support each other. And that's like a sledgehammer towards the injustice that these people are trying to push on us. It might be a difficult time. You might feel lonely, hopeless. This time, those feelings are valid. These times were created to make us feel this way. But what must never happen, we must fall into the solution that they're seeking. We must be anti their solution. We must be anti the hate that they're bringing on us. We must be anti the suffering and the pain and the cruelty. And we must be globally solid among each other with love, resistance, hope, joy. Because why? As my brother said, Black trans love is revolutionary.
Ashe, thank you, my sister. I appreciate that. Yes, Black trans love is revolutionary. Black trans, like we say, Black trans everything, and Black trans love as well. Isabella, any final thoughts from you before we close out this panel? Really want to thank you and Twinkle and Ruthra and Candacy again.
Black trans love is love. Black trans life is important. Black trans rights are important. Take your fucking feet off of our necks and let us breathe, because we deserve to live, to love, and to be liberated in global solidarity, in local solidarity, in community solidarity, and in any other solidarity. Love is love. Thank you.
Shay, well, right on. Thank you again to Ruthra, to Twinkle, to Isabella, to Candacy. And we're going to continue this conversation on global solidarity, and more than continue, try to continue to have like tangible land, space, resources, that TikTok, storytelling, things that we can do that are going to help us get there. So thanks again for everybody listening in. This is Sasha from Black Trans Media, and stay tuned for more.